Hey everybody, this is Josh Cook, aka Seizures Palace, and we are about to do Song of Week number 31. Today, we're going to be working on some dark techno. Let's get into it. Alright, so we have the session file here. As you can see, I have my classic sidechain blip, separate kick, and the rest of the drums are separated into claps, snares, and the kick drum extra click on top, and some hi-hats, ride, crash. I should probably just call this cymbals. BLS, there we go. And then some odd snaps. These are really cool. I'm going to get into this one in a minute. An impact, sub bass, upper bass, which is sort of the main chunky part of the dark techno track that I've created here called Grueltek. Flutish sort of sound. This one was also summed down into a WAV file, but I believe it was an Absinthe preset to start. I couldn't tell you which one, but it's been tweaked, and it kind of sounded like a flute, so it's called Flutish. There was a pad sound, some upper chords. They're called bass here, but they just weren't relabeled. Three melody parts that are just layers on top of one another. And then some extras. I called it tinsel. It's kind of a fun sound. So let's work backwards from that last one, tinsel. So you'll see why I named it that when you hear it. It sounds like this. Whoa, that's the whole thing. That's it. There's the tinsel. And then the melody, we have a few different layers, as I mentioned. We'll go down. This is the high version. Maybe not. Actually, you know what? Come to think of it, these were not relabeled properly either. This song was put together in like 25, 30 minutes, by the way, so I did cut some corners in the actual templating and layout and workflow of it, but it allowed for me to stay focused on the creative aspect, which was cool. So that's clearly a lower part of the melody. That has some weird pitch bend stuff going on. There it is. That's kind of like high mids and very trancy. Kind of like a Skrillex, old school Skrillex lead. So that's the high part. You put those three together. And again, there's some weird pitch bend wheel stuff going on. So this brings up a good point. Has that ever happened to you where you're playing something and the pitch bend wheel is creating a transposition of some sort or some sort of weird pitch effect that you're not going for? You're only going to experience that if you've done some pitch bend wheel automation at some point. And if I, for example, do a riser, let's say, with a pitch bend, and halfway through that riser, I pause the track and I go to a different point in the track, that particular synth that was being bent is going to remember where in the pitch bend wheel movement it last was, and it's going to take that particular pitch bend, or that pitch alteration amount, we'll say, and apply it to the other part of the song when you go to play. Now, that's not a permanent thing. You can get rid of that, and here's how. So I've double-clicked into the problem area. In fact, what I'm going to do is, you can see here, this is where the pitch bend automation is happening, and it's kind of messing things up a little bit. So I'm going to join these guys, because they're kind of doing the same thing. Make sure that in the bottom left corner here, your envelope is turned on. And naturally, it's going to be set to pitch bend on the MIDI control. And I've actually already done this. You can see right at the beginning, I've just dipped down the pitch a little bit. Not enough that you're going to be able to notice it. It's like a couple cents, negative 66 cents. And even that's like quite a bit, but it's happening like over a really short duration of time. Like when I zoom that out, you can see it's really short. So anyway, and then playing from that point, we'll correct the pitch. And then from here, now it's corrected. So there's a quick little tip for you as a little workaround if you're having, excuse me, pitch bend issues. Over to the upper chords. Oh, I forgot to mention, one really cool thing that I bought this week finally is, let's see if you can find it. Where is it? Oh, yeah, I didn't add it. No, I did. It's over here. I got Valhalla finally. I got Room and I got Shimmer, and it is gorgeous. Instantly, especially compared to the Ableton reverbs, it's like easily 10 times better. Those Ableton reverbs, there's some guys that can do like wonders with it, and it has a specific sound, and if it works for you, it works for you. But half the time I'm going for really lush and more sort of higher content within my reverbs, and I just find that Valhalla got me there so quick. It was a couple quick adjustments, and I got the sound I was looking for. So there's a bit of that on this guy here. Sorry, it's actually on the whole group. So if you listen, there's some nice reverb on this. Ooh, hear that? It's very beautiful. So that's what's going on there, and that's all done through a gate, I threw a gate on the, like I could go through each of these real quick. There's massive, a decapitator for some saturation, and then a widener. I always forget the order that these are supposed to go in. God, I hope that's correct. The way I picture it, though, is if something is going into a console, it's going to be naturally saturated right off the bat, and then you might have something on that console to widen after it's already gone in, so it would be saturated beforehand. If I'm wrong on that, feel free to correct me. That's the way I think of that. And then I have a little bit of... This could actually go later in the chain. This guy here, the multiband dynamic set to 120 soloed on the mids, is going to strip out everything below 120 really strictly. Couple EQs in the center there. This one's more for subtractive, and the second one's more for additive. There's some really strict sidechain compression, and then an auto filter for automation earlier in the song in this case. And then the second one is really similar because they were duplicated. It's just some subtle tonal effect changes and I think potentially an octave change. Yeah, so it's just a little bit more clear, and I think it's up the octave there too. It's kind of hard to tell if it's just filtered, but who knows. Yeah, so... Yeah, you know what? The gate is actually acting more as like a sidechain compressor right now, which is weird. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since. This was like one of the first synths I used. I'm trying to remember how it's getting the triplet feel. I think that's done through... Yeah, here we go. So it was all done through the Performer. It's set to 1/12, which gives it the triplet feel. And then I was using this particular draw pattern form, whatever you want to call it. Got a fuzz on my eye. Moving on. So there's a pad here. This one's gorgeous. I really like the sound of this pad. It's absinthe as well. So this one is a variation on Arctic Strings. And when it's opened up, it sounds even nicer. If I was to just kind of go later in the song and just... It's a really nice pad, and I don't like... I shouldn't say I don't like... I rarely use pads that are just super atmospheric. I like having a little bit of an attack on them just to kind of fit them into the style that I prefer a little bit better. The flutish sound. Very saturated. Also a little radiator on it, which is more saturation after the decapitator. I was going for some crazy saturation on that. And it was kind of like Justice influenced, maybe some, I always say his name wrong, Gesaffelstein, something like that. Anyway, so yeah, that was kind of an influence from those guys. Here's my favorite sound of the song. It sounds something like... The reverb is all done within silent. There's an arpeggiator set to 112, so it's basically triplets. Decapitator. I was using a Camel Crusher at one point. Boom, don't need it, not using it. A couple EQs. You can see I'm boosting up around the area of presence, but being strict on what I cut on the top end there. And then around 700 hertz, I found that giving a pretty significant boost there really helped bring that sound forward. My focus lately has been on these big chunky bass sounds, how to get them to sound like they're coming out of the middle of my speaker cone. And I don't know exactly what frequency that is. I was looking around on Google, and it differs, I guess, depending on what set of speakers it is. But I'm pretty sure at the top of the cone is about 2 kilohertz, and the bottom is supposed to be like 200 something, I think. So I don't know. I kind of like just averaged it at around like 700-ish, 800-ish is kind of like the middle of that cone. And if I'm wrong, please again correct me. I do these videos to get more information myself and to give out some information. But I found that really helped pop it out of the middle of the cone, which is really powerful part of the speaker, and you can get a lot of presence there too. So that was kind of the goal there. And then a sub bass, the same one that I use as usual, the Slink sub bass, and feel free to check out his tutorial, SLYNK, on creating a sub bass. It's fantastic. Impact, which would be, and then I reverse it sometimes just for fun. Sounds very digital, but in the mix it sounds great. And these odd snaps, this was the happy mistake of the song, we could say. If you listen here, it just sounds creepy, and it sounds like a millipede drinking water or something. I don't know. It's partially because of the reverb that was naturally on it, but it was done through DrumLab in Kontakt, and it was snaps. I also tried claps. They work well too. And I threw an arpeggiator on it, and then I just held a chord. Actually, it started with these chords down here. So I took this information and I dragged it up onto my odd snaps and threw an arpeggiator on it, which you can't see now because I've flattened the information to a WAV file. But that created this sort of clicky-clacky, constantly moving around snap sound. And I've saturated it at times too. So we have... That's regular. And that's saturated. But you can hear it's not always happening now. And that's because of this gate. So if I took it off, we have sidechain compression to make it pump. We have a gate to make it only happen when the snare is happening. So you get this really cool effect. And that's also from guys like Jazaffelstein and all those other dudes. I wish I knew how to say his name. I should look that up. And they often put like an anvil sound or something kind of industrial and creepy sounding with the snare. So I was like, I should gate something with the snare. And that was after I kind of already stumbled upon this throw an arpeggiator and a chord progression onto the snaps, and I get this cool sound, this sound design that's been created. And when you put it all together, it sounds something like... And you can hear it changes. And it goes back. It's higher, and then a little bit lower sound. So there's about 4 higher ones and then 4 lower ones, and it goes back and forth, and it creates cool movement. It creates an addition to the snare drum, and it was just totally fluky and awesome. The kick, same as usual. I'm using kick 2, and I customized it. Take a look at this, because this could help you out. About 180 and about 120, some steep cuts. A boost around 88 hertz. That's never the same. Sometimes I throw it down to the sub. Sometimes it's a little above 100. A little bit of a reduction in the upper 1K, as well as around the dreaded 500 hertz, which in this case is 432, based on the tuning of this kick. And that's about it there. And then I'm not going to go through like all the processing that I've done on each clap and each snare, but you can guarantee there's probably some saturation. Actually, fun fact, I'm pretty sure on this snare, I put on 2 decapitators. Why? Because to me, decapitator is the Frank's Red Hot of my production. I put that on everything. And with that said, I just wanted some extra Franks. I wanted it extra spicy, so I put on another decapitator. And if I get rid of both of them and then slowly add them, you'll see it does add to the sound. So let's start just here. Some more crunchy lows. And then it sounds more like really tape saturated with the other one. So this one kind of brought out some lows and a little more sizzle towards the end of the sound. And then this one just kind of threw a whole like tape saturation effect over it. Although I don't think decapitator is meant to emulate tape saturation. Maybe it is. That was kind of the effect I was given the impression of. So anyway, that is it for Grueltek. I can't think of anything else that I wanted to share. For the most part, it was about getting a bass sound that was kind of... Oh yeah, there's one thing worth mentioning. So there's a lot of effects on this guy. Like, look at this. It's a stupid amount of effects. But it's necessary for the most part because there's a lot of automation happening on these. And if it sounds good and it works, then I guess it was done right. In this case, I can't say it's perfect by any means, but it's a lot closer to the sound that I'm going for these days. So here's what I wanted to draw to your attention. I created a, like, what do you want to call it? Like, it's like a split, basically, where this actually goes further back, doesn't it? No, we're good. So I have a clean... Okay, here's how I'm going to say this. I have a group here, and it is splitting the signal of the bass to lows and highs. The lows are below 446 hertz. That was just the magic number for this song. Did a little bit of EQing, and I really narrowed the width down on a utility. You could even go down as low as 0%. You're basically going mono for the low content. For the upper content, I called it redux. Why? Well, because I've added some redux. And that's automated. It's not happening all the time. If I go back here, you can hear the redux. If I go back here, no redux. So it just gives that sizzle, and I'm reminded of Overwork, Overwerk from London, Ontario. That guy's great at having that Daft Punk sort of bit reduced sound. And yeah, look up to that guy. I aspired to him. He's a great producer. So it's something that I took from Daft Punk and Overwork, just throwing a bit of redux on the top end. So you can see now I have the opposite going on in these multiband effects. Everything above 446 hertz is soloed, so I chose the same frequency split point. I've done a little bit of EQing after the redux because it adds a lot of high sizzle. I found a ring, and I also lowered the overall sizzle a bit, added a bit of presence in the low, like the mids and the highs. or mid-highs anyway. And then I've also added within that chain some reverb, and I added some Valhalla room to that as well too. And then there's more stuff going on. Last thing worth mentioning is that in the decapitator, I actually automated the tone control, and I found that that really helped at times. I think it was on this track. Was it? Maybe it was on a different one. One sec. Yeah, hold on. It was on the other dark techno track I did. So that'll come in the next video. I think that's everything I wanted to say for today. As you can see, if I go open up the sends, I have short drum verb, which is the RC24, medium RC48, huge verb, also RC48 with quite a bit of strict effect processing going on after that. Valhalla room, I probably should have done some EQing and stuff. I just got the plugin, I threw it on, and I was convinced it instantly sounded great. My ears will get a little more picky with it over time, I'm sure. Short delay, long delay, tape delay, great. The Echo Boy here is really great for just widening out a sound with delay. I normally choose the 30 IPS tape echo. I don't even know exactly what's going on there. It just sounds nice. And then a drum bus where I do a decapitator for some saturation, solid EQ to get rid of any unnecessary frequencies and rings, solid bus compressor to compress the hell out of it, and then another solid EQ to do a little bit of boosting on frequencies that really help bring out the drums. So you can hear without the drum bus, here's what we would have. It works. Here's where. So we get more of a from the snare drum, and we also get more of a click from the bass drum, and generally more attack from the snare as well too. You can see that's all because of the solid bus compression. I have 30 millisecond attack time, really slow. Auto release, which sometimes I take to 0.8 or mess around with it depending on the song. High ratio, and you'll see it should be between about 6 and 10 dB of reduction. Oh! There we go. So I missed that. Anyway, sounds a little better with a little bit more compression there. Save, and we're good. So yeah, that's Grueltek in a nutshell. Got it done in under 20 minutes. I'm happy. Hopefully you're happy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with people that you think might be interested. Any aspiring producers, anyone that might just want to watch some music production happen. Anyway, my name's Josh Cook, a.k.a. Seizures Palace, and I will see you next week.